Yes, thank you, Roberta. Up next is a presenter that has proved to be popular at Retail Rally, so much so that we keep asking him back. And as we all face the pandemic, his topic is timely. As the founder of Omodt Associates Critical Communications, Paul Omodt helps clients communicate the best version of themselves, whether times are tough or whether times call for telling the world just how great you are. For more than 30 years, he's been the go-to when communications are critical to your success. Please welcome Paul Omodt.
Thanks, everyone, and thanks, Bruce, for having me. Bruce, don't go off screen yet, because as I was making my presentation up the last couple of weeks here, I was thinking about it a lot, and you said, Paul, you're going to go towards the end, so I want you to kind of bring everything together. And then as I was watching today and the video wasn't running, I was actually kind of hopeful, Bruce, and don't take this personal, that it wouldn't work. I was hoping that we'd just have the audio, and I'd be able to ask people, what was their one word, phrase, saying, or image that they heard from those great retailers, and what sticks in their minds? So I'm going to ask you to do that now. We have a chat function on the side, and I want everybody to kind of think about the video that they saw or the words and images they saw, and tell me one or two words that you heard about those people talking about their businesses and why they found success. Because as I was watching that video, I took my notes on it, and I'm like, oh, he's talking about exactly what I'm going to talk about. She's talking about exactly what I'm talking about as well. And what sticks out to me is that within this group is a lot of really smart people. And within this group is a lot of people I think are pretty unsure about what's going on with the pandemic right now. I see people coming in and saying compassion, absolutely positively. I heard other words that come through. I heard experience. I see innovation come through. And innovation was one of the words that I wrote down. What happens when we are challenged? And that's part of what I want to talk about. Oh, Deborah Gleason comes in with collaboration, John Naughton with genuine. Think about it this way now. When the pandemic hit us, right, a lot of people retreated. And I tell people that the clients that I work with in the retail space, this was the greatest gift to you that you could have ever imagined, because it will propel you forward. So I want to ask you to think about something. I hope my friend, Mr. Schuler, is still on the line, because Mr. Schuler is the expert, his company, in managing through this. He is a 121-year-old business that is still doing things the right way. He's already lived through one pandemic that I know of in 1918. He's run through 2 world wars, a Great Depression, several recessions. He has survived the advent of the Mall of America. He's survived the advent of Amazon. He's survived government regulations. He's survived everything because he has a plan. He has a mindset that keeps him agile. So the number one thing I tell my clients to do is to keep their minds agile. Keep your minds open to new things and look at any crisis situation as the best thing that ever happened to you. If you think about it that way, it frees you up to focus on the new things that'll propel you forward. As I've looked at this pandemic, I've told my clients there's really 3 big strategies you should be thinking of. You've heard a lot of them today. The 3 strategies in my mind are this: to survive the pandemic as a retailer, number 1 is local or personal. We'll talk about that. Number 2 is to be mindful and meaningful. And number 3 is to be digitally grounded. Or as I like to say, call Marnie at Evolve, because she'll tell you exactly what you need to do in terms of being digitally grounded. Let's take a look at each of those 3 strategies and how they meet today's consumer. Today's consumer is telling us one thing. The top 3 things, whether I look at the Edelman Trust Barometer of consumers, the McKinsey report, the Accenture report, whatever it is, when you talk to consumers, since the pandemic, they're looking for 3 things. They're looking for an experience that is safe, that is local, and is mindful. Notice what is in that combination and what isn't in that combination. In that combination of cluster of what consumers are looking for and thinking about is safety, the feeling of good close with their neighbors, and something that has a meaningful to their life. Nowhere in that equation is the word cost. Those words are all about me and my experience, irrespective of cost, and that tells us that the high-end brands are suffering a little bit more, whereas the bargain brands and the mid-range brands are doing really, really well, and local brands are doing best. So let's talk about that agile mind that we have to understand this new consumer with. Here's what we know about the agile mind. If we have a disruption in our business and we respond to it with change, If it lasts less than 30 days, we go back to normal. If it goes more than 66 days, we know that a new pattern has set in, both by our employees, our customers, and the people that supply our goods and services. This pandemic has been around for 8 months, so we are well past the 66-day mark, which tells me that the Agile Mind should not just be thinking about getting through tomorrow, but should be thinking about what the new normal is going to look like when the pandemic is declared over. Whenever that may be, things that we did before, we might not do again. Things that we did before, we'll do much better than. And the consumer base will have shifted. We'll talk about that as well. What that requires us to be with an Agile Mind is listening to our employees all the time. What we're finding more and more is that our employees' input, their ability to tell us more, is always helping us build a better product. So let's talk about that first strategy. That first strategy is the more local, the better. Why is that? Why has the pandemic made this shift? A couple things that we should know. Sales of local products have gone up 20%. Sales of national products are up 20%. And where does the fall come is from international products. Now that could be an effect of shipping and getting things through into the country, but people are looking for more and more local products. People want that experience that makes them feel local. And Melvin Tennant said it right. His advertising campaign is dead on. We need us. And that's what consumers are saying. So if you take that campaign and apply it to your business, what does that mean? How does that play out? I have a consumer retail client that I work with, and we've made something more personal for people. We make them feel safe because when they walk in the store, they know that the mask mandate will be enforced peacefully, calmly. They know that we do extra things to do cleaning and we're spraying and all the kind of fun stuff that we're doing. But the most important thing we did is that we changed our name tags. My name tag no longer just says, "Hi, I'm Paul." It says, "Hey, I'm Paul. I'm from Minneapolis. And one other fact about me." I've made myself more personal and more local. Now they know that they're shopping with someone who lives nearby them, who has a similar interest to them, and they're more likely to return to my store. We use that same technique, whether it's in the retail space or whether I'm advising my clients in the retirement home community, where you're working with aides that are now stuck with people who haven't been outdoors for many, many months. We have instituted that too, so that we build that connection between people because that's their new local. The more local we make it, the better off we do. My next group of clients has made a nice pivot as well. And we had one of our retail fashion clients on today win an award, very exciting. But Park Shop does something pretty similar too. They set aside 10% of their shelf space for local artisans. They're one of 4 or 5 clients that I work with that do that now on a regular basis because they know local is driving people foot traffic into their stores to find something so they can support something local. So that local element is coming out more and more and more. And the last thing we're doing is we're making our gift shop. We have a gift shop that I work with, and it's very funny. We do a lot of digital advertising, mostly on products and pricing before, and now we've shifted that whole marketing stuff as Terry from Evolve was telling us. We've changed that thing into something more about the owner's personal life. As odd as that sounds, we are now telling stories about what it's like to run her store, what's going on in her family, what's going on with her employees, and our sales have gone up 12% off our marketing efforts since we started telling a more personal story. So strategy number 1 is to make it more local. Think local, be local, source local, make your employees feel local, make your digital life look local. That is going to draw the consumers to you because that's what the surveys are telling us that they're looking for more and more. The second big strategy is to be more mindful. Now this strategy comes both from demographics because we know what the younger generations, the Gen Zs are thinking about is they want things that they can feel good about. They want companies that they know support the things they care about and are mindful about the practices that they're undergoing. So I encourage my clients to talk about what they care about. Have a cause that's legitimate and authentic to you, and don't be afraid to talk about it. That's the one piece of mindfulness that I'm not just being a consumer, I'm also supporting something bigger than myself. We are finding that people that are doing that, making that extra donation at the checkout, are actually more loyal customers to our retail establishments. So our ability to be more mindful about who we support and why and how we promote that is working for us time and time again. The second part of that mindfulness comes in the way we package products. And here's where the interesting mix between the digital world and the brick and mortar store comes in. We're finding more and more feedback from people when we ship them a product to say, man, I really don't like all the packaging that you use. I really don't like all the packaging that Amazon uses. It seems very wasteful. And the consumer satisfaction surveys will show that as well. The Edelman survey picks that up. The McKinsey survey picks that same thing up. And so we are working on with some of our clients what we call the last mile delivery system, which means that we have products that are shipped from our store, but literally the last mile, we will unpackage the packages in our store and we'll find the time best to deliver it to you, and we'll deliver it ourselves and give you a personalized last mile mindful delivery of your product or service. It's that way to kind of solidify our relationship with that customer that's very personal. So that last mile mindfulness is one way that 4 or 5 of my clients have really embraced. The way they bring the product to the house or to the car when they pull up is something where there's less packaging, less frill about it, less waste, and we're finding our customers come back to us time and time again because we do that. The last strategy I want to talk about, because I know we're running a little over time today and I'll talk fast, is to get digital, which I also call this the Call Marnie at Evolve strategy. Digital sales have sped up in the last 8 months what we expected them to do in the last 10 years coming out. So we've grown digitally faster than we assumed that we would be because of the pandemic, because people are staying home. But what they're also doing is telling us, I still like the experience of the store. So if you listen to the video before and you listen to the words that they use, and I wrote down my one word things, people are still talking about the experience, the experience, the experience. When you come to my restaurant at Fitkers, you feel like family. It's about friends. When you go to the shop in Alexandria, right? They're talking about, I want something where you feel comfortable. So we're seeing more and more clients. I'm working with a client right now where they sell an experience. Their store is the experience. You can still buy things online. They're super easy to find online. But what they're finding is customers still want to come into the store and get a tier 1, grade A, top-notch experience of being treated like a person. So here we go. People are feeling like, oh, I feel like I'm home, and yet I'm in a retail store. They don't want the anonymity of a crowd. What they want is that feeling. They're more likely to come back to us. So we're targeting that with our digital. And we're finding that people that haven't been in our store digitally, because we're mining the data from our loyalty programs, and we're finding those people that haven't been in our store in the last year. Pretty easy to do. And we're retargeting them with ads, and we're retargeting with direct appeals to them. And we're finding about a 12% response rate and about a 10% yield on profitability. We go to the people that haven't seen us in 2 years. Think about this now, a longer time. And our yield and our profitability doubles from that point. And what we're finding, that what we're attributing that to, is that they're kind of missing us even though they're not a real regular customer. And then here's the kicker to this whole thing. People that have previously dropped off our list because they have no interactions with us in the last 3 years, we are retargeting people who have not been in our store for 3 years, haven't made a purchase with us in 3 years, and our return rate on that was 112%. Why are they coming back to us, and why is our way to reach out to them digitally working so well? Because I'm spending about 7 cents per acquisition to go back to that person by targeting them. Why is it 112% response rate and return rate? Because they like the feeling of, man, I felt so left out. It was a store that was in my mind, and I just put them in front of them, and they want that feeling they got when they walked in my doors. And so whether they walk in our doors physically or make a purchase online, we're finding people who lapsed 3 years ago are coming back to us because they want that feeling of safety, they want that local feeling, and they want something that is mindful. So when you bring this all together, for those of you who thought the pandemic was the worst thing that's ever happened to them, I'm gonna tell you this. Use the pandemic, be mindful about it, use it to your advantage. Never let a good crisis go to waste. We should always use these things to make us better. It's gonna propel us forward. If you haven't thought where your business is gonna be in 100 years, think about that right now. Schuler Shoes, when they started in 1889, I don't think they had a 100-year business plan, but they've done something right about sticking with it, adapting as they go, keeping an agile mind, and they flourished for 121 years. If you're not thinking today about how your company is going to come out of the pandemic better and stronger with the new normal in mind, now is the time to start thinking about it. to surround yourself with the type of consultants that Rick Brimacombe just talked about, those 5 big categories of people you should have them guide you out of this. This is not the time to retreat. This is the time to move forward boldly, openly, and with a big smile on your face, and maybe even wearing a pair of shoeless shoes. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Bruce and Savannah, and thank you everyone for allowing me the chance to speak with you today. I wish I could be there in person with you, because it's always more fun to be in person. Next time, I guarantee you, next October, we will be in person, right, Bruce?
Right on. Paul, thanks so much. That was great, and just great context for some of the other comments today. We're just so appreciative of you being here with us and sharing your thoughts, and just it's fun to watch the good work that we know you're doing with your clients too. I won't name any of them, but a lot of them are brands that we all know, and especially in the pandemic, you've seen just some great work. So thanks, Paul.
Yes, thank you so much, Paul.